Sorry.
Well,
I think maybe you need to cut that out.
Well, no, I don't know how extensive your research is, Tess, to work out who are the hot ambassadors for the Australian diplomatic mission around the world.
I'm going to be quiet now. I'm not going to say anymore.
The presenting sponsor for Socially Democratic is Dunn Street. Dunn Street is a campaign agency that specialises in community organising. We only work with people and organisations who want to build power to make the world a better place. And if you want to create change in your world in 2026, then hit us up at dunnstreet.com.au. A special shout out to all of our Patreon members. If you want to join those wonderful supporters of our podcast and financially support our show so we can continue to produce great episodes each week, then we encourage you to click on the link in the show notes and subscribe to the Patreon of Socially Democratic. And finally, today's episode is brought to you by Maurice Blackburn Lawyers. For over a century, Maurice Blackburn has stood up for fairness, championing the rights of everyday Australians and shaping landmark legal reforms. Today, they're harnessing new technologies to make justice more accessible, more efficient, and more responsive to the needs of modern Australia. All right, let's get on with today's episode. We are taping this one on a Monday afternoon on the lands of the Wurundjeri people. Happy New Year to everyone tuning in. For those of you who are regular followers of the podcast, you'll know that each year we do these sort of end-of-year wraps, and we intentionally do one that's on pop culture. This is not a pop culture podcast, but we always put one up over the summer just because we figured folks are probably chilling out and maybe want some lighter content to listen to as well. But we do it through a political lens. We tend to cover TV shows or films that have political content to discuss. And to help me unpack our pop culture episode this year is my good friend, and as I call her, the Social Democratic pop culture correspondent, Tess Farrell. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. It's a pleasure to be here. I very much enjoy being your pop culture expert at the end of every year, so I can't wait for another good app.
We do chuck in one maybe every sort of middle of the year as well. I think the last time you and I spoke was leading up to Easter, and we sort of did a very Catholic pop culture podcast because we unpacked the Conclave film and the series Say Nothing.
Which was excellent, but also showed a few gaps in my religious knowledge from my Catholic education. I think I was a little embarrassed at the end that I wasn't quite as up to date with my religious knowledge as I should have been, but still we gave it a red hot go. And then the Pope died.
I know. I think we sort of talked about when are we going to get another conclave to see in real life, but I don't think we were thinking that it would be so soon. It was like a couple of weeks later that Pope Francis passed away, and then we actually went through. Yeah, very spooky. Now, funnily enough, though, in previous years we've had a smorgasbord of political content in terms of TV or film to choose from, and we've actually kind of had to narrow down and say, well, what one do you want to do and what one do I want to do? But this year, it's been slim pickings to the point that we've actually only settled on one TV series that you and I are going to unpack together. It's fascinating that with all so much going on in real life in terms of the drama of the Trump administration that we actually haven't had a lot of political drama or comedy content to look over and actually examine.
The exact same thing occurred to me sort of towards the end of the year. I was like, I better get on to watching some of the things that Stephen and I might want to talk about. And for the first time, I looked back on the year because I keep notes on what I've watched throughout the year. I was like, I have not watched anything political whatsoever. And anything that had a political tilt to it was about sort of the end of the world. You know, like Zero Day with Robert De Niro, you know, he was the former president. It's all about politics, but also the world's ending and it's all over, which is absolutely, I don't know, is that sort of a telling of the times? There's a real lack of good political TV and film at the moment.
I wonder if the chaos of the Trump administration, that is, like if you had a time machine and went back to talk to folks in either like the Obama administration or even during the life of the Bush administration and just gave them a snapshot of all of the things that's happened under the presidency of Donald Trump, people would think that that would be fiction. And so therefore it's difficult to write political fiction now when the reality is so fictitious. There's like, I can't, even comedians have said, I can't make fun of Donald Trump because he himself is incredibly funny anyway. Comedians are struggling to know where to go with this.
Well, that's why the only way to go is literally the end of the world, end of days. There's everything else, everything that you couldn't have possibly thought would happen has probably happened. It is so ridiculous. But I do wonder I don't know when, but, hopefully, touch wood, this is the last of the Trump presidency. But I wonder if there will be more film and content about it at the end, or whether it's just going to be people, can't really cope and Hollywood want to ignore it.
Yeah, I know. And so what it's meant is that the only show that we are going to be talking about in today's episode is the TV series The Diplomat, which is the third season aired this year. And I guess you and I were texting back and forth going, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? It was only when you said The Diplomat, I said, oh, yes, let's do The Diplomat. I think so for this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to unpack The Diplomat. There will be spoilers in this episode, and we've also written that in the show notes as well, that there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show and you do want to watch it, then I would suggest you stop listening to the podcast now and come back and have a listen afterwards. But if you have watched up through until the end of season 3 of The Diplomat, then I think you will hopefully enjoy this particular podcast as we sort of review the show and our reflections on it. So, Tess, why don't you give us a bit of an overview of what the show's about and the central plot?
Great. So this is season 3 of The Diplomat. It is on Netflix. It's a political thriller drama, but I will say it is sprinkled with quite a bit of comedy at the same time. So it's not all completely dark. The main characters, the main actors in the TV show all the way through all 3 seasons are Keri Russell and Rufus Sewell, who will go on to talk a lot about, I'm sure. Keri Russell is a career American diplomat, and she gets posted as the US ambassador to the UK in season 1. And it follows her all the way through to season 3. But at the same time, she's also being pursued as a potential vice president candidate. So that's the sort of central plot of all 3 seasons. It's created by Deborah Cahn, who was a writer on The West Wing, Grey's Anatomy, and Homeland. So if you like any of those shows, I think you're almost guaranteed to like The Diplomat. It's got a 92% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes and an 8 out of 10 on IMDb. So it's ranked pretty highly. I would say it's my favorite, one of my top 3 shows of this year. And I think season 3 for me is a real standout. So talking about the plot a little bit, season 3 picks up after quite a cliffhanger on season 2. And basically what's happened is the US president has died very suddenly. And the vice president, Grace Penn, who's played by Allison Janney, is suddenly sworn in as the president of the United States while she is in the UK visiting Kate Weiler, who is Keri Russell's character. She's the American ambassador to the UK. And her husband, Hal Weiler, is now enmeshed in this US domestic politics, international crisis altogether, sort of at the embassy in the UK. And season 3 really follows the personal relationships of Kate and Hal, and how that shifts, because in a real shock at the beginning of this season, when Grace Penn gets sworn in as the president very suddenly, we all think, okay, well, Kate has been groomed to be the vice president. And all of a sudden there is a switch, and actually it's Hal, Kate's husband, who becomes in the running to become the vice president. So all of a sudden we see this real switch, and now not only is Kate the ambassador to the UK, but she is also the Second Lady of the United States of America. So it really does unpack their marriage, and it goes back, and then there are flashbacks to sort of how they met, and, you know, what's happening now and how it compares to, you know, when they first got together. But while all of that is happening in the moment, there is also quite a serious global international politics sort of crisis going on with a Russian nuclear armed device called Poseidon. So there is a whole lot of stuff going on between the US, the UK, and even the Russians, and it's quite a complicated political situation that Kate is navigating as the ambassador to the UK, but also as the Second Lady. And there's a lot of interactions with the British Prime Minister, Nicol Trowbridge, who's probably one of my favourite characters in the whole show. He's hilarious and amazing. And yeah, this season 3 is basically chaos, and it sort of mirrors the chaos in Kate and Howe's relationship. So now he's the vice president, she's the second lady, also the ambassador to the UK, and also the sort of, I would probably say the eroding relationship between the US and the UK on a sort of an international diplomacy level. And it's there are quite a few twists and turns all the way through this series. And a lot of it is about, you know, the decisions they make and what's right and what's wrong, and who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. And that's basically it. It's fairly crazy. Did I miss any plot lines, Stephen?
No, I was smiling as you were just going through that. So I was going, Tess, this is actually a really good summary of the show in its simplest form, because there is complexity to it as well, right? There's so much that happens in this particular third series, and I think that's what makes this series probably the best out of the three is that it's fast paced. There's not many kind of, in a modern day way in which we consume television, where we are always constantly in lulls of a TV show. What do? We pick up our phone and we start looking at things, right? We get distracted. And this show's pacing works well enough that there are a few moments where you feel the need to pick up your phone and start searching something else. I thought it was, really, really fast paced, and one of the strengths of the show.
Yeah, and I will say, if you have watched season 1 and season 2 and you were like, I could give or take season 3, definitely watch season 3. And given all that I've just said, I know it sounds like there's a lot of spoilers. I think you'll be surprised still when you watch it about how it all actually unfolds and the intensity of it. And you're right, it is extremely fast paced. So it is a good watch.
Much like our Mad Men, the first season was a great foundation season for that whole series, and then season 2 actually was a little bit slow, and I think the writers learned a lot from that second season, and then season 3 of Mad Men is actually where I think it really starts to take off, and then becomes the show that we all, those that did love the show that we all know and love. And I think there's a similarity here with The Diplomat, in that the first season gets your attention. The second season was okay, but I thought there were elements of the show where I was going like, oh, come on, let's get to it. And then obviously it ends with a cliffhanger. I think I actually watched it on a flight. I just downloaded every episode of the second season, mainlined it on one long haul flight. And I actually think I said out aloud, oh, fuck off, at the end I forgot where I was at the ending of the season 2, which then set up season 3 to be, season 3 is like that. And I wonder if, I don't know, like Succession was similar as well. Succession had some seasons there that were a little bit slow, and I think the writers learned and adapt to it and made it, what in the end responded to, I guess, feedback they were getting from critics, and then it took on that feedback. That made us all the better TV watching as the seasons unfolded.
Well, do you know what? I did not like season 2 at all. I remember it just being like, I don't know, I think I did finish it, but I didn't want to pick it up at all. But my partner started watching it, and I was sort of watching it as I was playing on my phone in the periphery while he was watching it. And then all of a sudden I found myself putting down my phone and being like, hang on a second, wait. I think he was on episode 2. And I was like, hang on a second, what's happened here? And I made him go back and watch season 1. episode 1 of the season and episode 2 again, and then we ended up watching it all together. But I was not interested. I was like, yeah, put it on. I'm going to play on my phone. So that's why I said if you've watched 1 or 2 and you weren't planning on watching it, pick it up, because I really, really enjoyed it. So I wouldn't have watched it otherwise. I don't think I would have watched it.
I don't want to. We'll get to themes and of the film and strengths and whatnot in a moment, and just sort of reflections. But can we talk about Keri Russell for a moment? And the reason why I want to do this is I read there was the long form interview with her in the October edition of the New Yorker. Mm-hmm. And Keri Russell is a year younger than me, so we're both of that Gen X generation, and sort of I feel like my life has followed through her television career. And reading this article, it was really interesting getting a sense of who she is. And I would say she's the reluctant actress. I always have a cynicism of actors and actresses because I think because by nature of their job, they're just full of shit. And reading this article and this interview with her, I was like, oh no, you're not full of shit. I don't think you actually want to do this. Like, I think there are moments where you're like, I don't like the fame, and I think it's genuine. I don't think it was performative at all, and going back, obviously she was discovered at the age of 15, via a Disney casting call, and she entered sort of this business without this ambition for stardom, as opposed to, I guess, other people that were on the Disney program. As a teen and as a young adult, she was very sexualized and typecast and exposed to these adult pressures, but as a young person. And I think she's reflected on that, and she reflects on it in the article about being super uncomfortable with this. But then obviously she gets cast in Felicity, and that made her the it girl, and this, but people were obsessed with her, and in particular her haircut, and she said she found that incredibly overwhelming. But despite the show's cultural impact, she felt exhausted by all the press and the scrutiny and just the grind of having to turn up every day and act. And when the series finally ended, she basically quit acting, and she retreated to New York and lived in a flat with some friends. One of them might have been doing acting, but the others were just doing kind of, I think one was studying at NYU, doing their doctorate or something. Like, she just was and she would just, with the money that she made from Felicity, she just basically bummed out on the couch for a bunch of years, and every now and then would do a little bit of, just pick up a little bit of work here just to keep the money coming in, like some sort of maybe some product placements or something, but basically just reject. And, whoever did Felicity, whoever the director was, or the person that got her involved in Felicity, kept on hitting her up and saying, I've got another role for you, and I've got another role for you. And she said, no, I don't want to do that. So she literally would just go out, she'd live the life like you and I would live, in terms of just going out on weekends, partying, having a bit of fun, chilling out during the week, and just taking it easy, which is hysterical. And she calls it the lost years, and she loved every minute of it, which is just not what you'd expect, right, from other actresses or actors who built up this reputation and going, right, I've got these foundations. What's my next jump? Where am I going? And she completely rejected it.
She seems extremely cool and down to earth.
100%.
And the fact that she did Cocaine Bear means she really doesn't take herself too seriously, right? Have you seen that?
Which was that one? The
Cocaine Bear.
No.
You haven't seen it?
No.
It's about a bear on cocaine. It was only a couple of years ago, and I think it was after The Americans. So
right, I've not even heard of this.
She just doesn't take herself too seriously, which is great.
Yeah. I sent you a video. I texted you a video before. One thing she did the Always film clip before she got on Felicity.
She did look quite young in that film clip.
Yeah.
Which is worrying.
But, just sidebar, is that one of the most quintessential 1990s rock ballad film clips you have ever seen? Like, the acting is terrible. It's over-dramatized. Everyone's in 90s. It's just, the fashion is so 1994. I loved it.
I mean, Always is my favorite Bon Jovi song of all time.
Really?
It's amazing. Well, I'm Filipino. It's like a household song in every Filipino house. It's sort of compulsory to know it. So I can bet that I hadn't watched that film clip until just today, since, probably the 90s. It is crazy. Why there's a Dr. Seuss hat in it for some reason. But her hair is definitely the standout. I hate to reduce her down to her hair, but her hair in it is so beautiful.
Yeah, iconic. So then she agrees to come on and do The Americans, playing Elizabeth Jennings. And she said it was the most complex role in her career. And the show obviously explores intimacy and identity and marriage as much as it explores espionage. And I don't know, I'm interested to get your thoughts on the Americans, but I put The Americans in my top 10 TV series of all time in that what I would call the binge streaming era of television. So basically when HBO sort of reinvented what television, how we consumed television, as opposed to when it used to just be like, like Seinfeld. I would watch Seinfeld on Tuesday night at 7:30, right? And you had to wait a following week. I'm talking about the period where you could grab all of it and just watch it. And I have The Americans in the top 10, up there with Breaking Bad and The Wire and The Sopranos and all those other TV shows. It's such gripping television, and it really was made by the performances of her and her co-star who played Philip Jennings. I always forget his name, but in the end, Matthew Rhys. They are now they're an item. Then no,
and they have a baby or a child. I think it's quite. She was pregnant, I think, in maybe season 2. They got together before, or just as in season 1, and I think she was pregnant in season 2 of The Americans with their first child.
And apparently, she talks about it in that article I was talking about in the New Yorker, and how obvious everyone knew that they were seeing each other. But they hadn't told anyone, and they were trying to hide it. But it was just there was so many tells that the cast were like, "You two are definitely seeing each other, but we're going to respect your privacy, and we're not going to say anything." So when they eventually came out and told everyone, we're like, "Oh wow, what a shock!" We're going, "Well, you knew for like 12 months." The Americans. What do you think about The Americans?
Yeah, for me, I actually only watched it maybe 2 years ago. So after it was, well and truly finished. And I think that's probably one of my favorite television series, drama of all time, I reckon. It's incredible. I'm only halfway through watching The Sopranos for the first time, so I can't say where it sits alongside that. But I was fully gripped, and everyone I know was fully gripped by The Americans. Everyone I know really enjoyed it, and her performance especially, like she was such an enigma. Like it was, I loved it so much. So that's definitely, I reckon it's probably in my top 5 series of all time.
So one of the things that came out of that read anyway, and I really recommend folks, if you do have a subscription to the New Yorker and you like Keri Russell's work, you should read it. And one of the things that I took away from it was, she still, even to this day, remains completely skeptical of award ceremonies and award culture and lobbying, and prefers to actually to lose an Emmy than give a speech. She doesn't want to get up and give a speech. She actually says, "I don't like doing that. I don't want to get up and be the center of attention." And sort of that sort of classic Gen X figure of resisting the pressure to want more. I just, as I said, I think she's the reluctant actress. And I only say that because I feel like her character, the real life Keri Russell, kind of plays out a little bit in the character of Kate Weiler. Like, yes, I know that her character wants to be the vice president, but she doesn't really want to be the vice president. And I think there's a tension in her throughout, and doesn't want all the trappings that come with being the ambassador to the United Kingdom for the United States. Staying at that huge big manor that the ambassador gets, and having all the staff and all of that kind of stuff. You can clearly see she's very uncomfortable about that. The way she dresses, how she does her hair, the clothes. She wants to wear comfortable clothes all the time. Doesn't want the big ball gowns and all the ceremonies that she has to attend in her capacity as being an ambassador. She clearly is uncomfortable with that, her character. And I think that in real life, I think that's what Keri Russell's like. So I don't think she needed to act too much to actually portray that.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it almost, as much as Kate is a character, is an incredible character, it did sort of feel like we were just watching Keri Russell in the show. Like, I feel like she could have just been an ambassador. But I think you're spot on there with, Kate is an incredibly capable and talented professional, and so is Keri, and they are very similar.
Any other thoughts on Keri's character, Kate, before we go to Rufus Sewell, who's the husband?
I don't know. She's just a joy to watch. I just want to watch her. I kind of want to be her, and I'm not sure whether other women will feel the same, because even though she doesn't want the glitz and glam, she still, to me, looks really glamorous and amazing, and she's so smart and she's so talented. So she's a real pleasure to watch. And yeah, I know we'll talk about how now, but I just loved their relationship and the dynamics between the two.
Roger Ebert said, although we've spent 3 seasons with Kate, we rarely see what she truly feels. She wears an array of masks that obfuscate what's underneath. This device gives us a leading character whose unmasking is a roller coaster of emotions and motivations. I think that's a very apt description of Kate Weiler. And we all see this unravel as we go through this episode of this season. Rufus Sewell, who I kind of call, I know that guy kind of character, because you've seen him in so much, but unless you've sort of become an absolute pop culture nerd, you'll have to sort of remind yourself what you've seen him in. But the last thing I remember him being in was in the Man in the High Castle, which I don't know if you and I have ever spoken about either offline or online, but it's a TV series that I really got hooked on when it came out many, many years ago, based on a book. And it was very dystopian. It was as if when the Nazis and the Japanese won the Second World War, and so the west coast of America is run by the Japanese and the east coast of America is run by the Nazis. And he plays a high commander Nazi that's basically running the Nazi operation in the United States. Evil character, but I loved him in that show, and then I've loved him in this series, The Diplomat, as well.
Is there time travel in that, or are there two worlds operating at once in the Man in High Castle?
Yeah, we get introduced to this time travel thing late in it, and it kind of annoyed me a little bit, and that's when I was like, so don't do that.
Yes, yep. I did really enjoy The Man in the High Castle, and that's the only thing. Oh no, I mean, a lot of other people will know Rufus Sewell as Kate Winslet's boss in the film The Holiday. Jasper.
Yes, which I watched on the flight home.
And you're like, there he is, there's Hal. And he's
I was like, oh God, Hal, you're a prick here as well.
I know. So this Hal Weiler was made for Rufus Sewell, I think, given his acting history.
Yeah, absolutely. How can you describe Hal Weiler as a character?
Oh, I don't know. Just, oh my gosh. Like, for me, like a suave political operator, like a charming, suave, very intelligent, like political man. I was just really taken by him this season. And I won't spoil this because there is something that happens at the end of the season, and we won't give that away. But I was like, oh my gosh, like no, like what I found myself very conflicted between loving Hal and not loving Hal this season.
Yeah, I've written in my notes.
It broke my heart in two. Because are we rooting for Kate and Hal? Are we not rooting for Kate and Hal? That was the best part of the whole season for me.
I wrote down that he's a lovable CUNT.
I didn't go that far. And that's really funny.
He is.
I said a suave political operator, and like lovable CUNT is like probably the same thing.
Well, Jess, clearly you've got a better education than I have, because I have to go for binary things. But that's why I thought you are such a CUNT, Hal. But you know what? I kind of love you. Like, there are times where I felt sorry for him. And then just when you start to feel sorry for him, he reminds you why he's such a prick.
Yeah.
Did you ever have sympathy for Hal?
Yeah, I did. I did have sympathy for Hal, because I think he really loves Kate. And there is so much tension there between love and power, right? And, what do you choose? Your marriage or the political ambition that you have always had? Do you choose yourself or your partner? And it's, I did have sympathy for him, but by the end, I didn't.
I think I'm projecting my own Catholic upbringing here and my views on divorce, but I just, and also the value of loyalty. I wanted them to work. Like when when there was tension in the marriage and in the relationship, I really felt that, and I was very much rooting for them to succeed, but also seeing that how flawed they both are as individuals. That was leading to this tension constantly. And what season 3 did was blur the lines between a public and a private relationship. In community organising, we talk about that in organising, you're aiming to have public relationships based on mutual respect and trust, whereas a private relationship is based on solidarity and love and blood and all the other things. And it's when you mix the two of them, it becomes very, very difficult. And so what happened was when with spoiler alerts, are we going to talk about what happened at the start? You mention before that he becomes the vice president,
he becomes
right?
the vice president,
Yeah, so they've both got public relationships now, because in season 1 and 2, he was just a handbag. He was a somebody from the past, and he had to accept that you've got to take a back seat now, Hal. And Kate is the public identity, and you're just the handbag. But in season 3, they now both have public roles, and so that they were both handbags to each other. When he's VP, she's the second lady. And has to take the handbag role. But when he's over in Britain and she's taking her capacity as the ambassador, that's her public relationship. And he kind of has to handbag, but doesn't. And it just creates this awful tension it just rips at the marriage. And there are moments there where I just was like, can we get this together? Like, can we work this out? But they can't, and when it was starting to fall apart, I was getting upset by it. And I was going, this is ridiculous, Stephen. This is fiction. Why are you getting upset for this? Anyway, so I found it conflicting. I found it really, really challenging.
Yeah. And that's what made the season so good, I think, was that tension and whether or not we should be rooting for them to get together. But I will say, and this is a bit of a spoiler, but Kate this season gets a love interest. A second love interest.
Yeah, which I was not comfortable with at all. That's when I was feeling sorry for Hal the most, and he was trying to be good about it, and I'm like going,
why? Didn't Hal kiss someone in season 1? Someone else.
Oh God, that
I can't remember.
But probably did. Yeah, it was terrible. I would have been upset about that as well. Like, come on, man, it's Keri Russell. What are you doing?
They brought in a new love interest for Kate, who's played by Aidan Turner, who I love. He's an Irish actor, and but I don't know if this was on purpose. I'd be interested to find out. But I did not enjoy that plot line, and I did not enjoy her relationship with him.
Why?
So I just didn't. It didn't work for me. I didn't really see the chemistry. I don't know what it was. So I don't know if it's on purpose or not. But that pushed me towards Hal. Definitely. When seeing her and she strikes up a relationship with a British spy, I guess. And yeah, that pushed me towards Hal instead of making, me want like sort of what Kate wants, I suppose.
Yeah. And there's a couple of key moments there where she suddenly realizes that, I actually love Hal. And that's when I was like, that's when I started to melt. I was like, oh, thank God. And then of course other things happened, which we won't talk about, but it's like, oh man, it's tough. It's tough. Look, before we move off Hal, is there anything you want to share on Hal? Because I kind of want to go on to some of the other periphery characters and get your reflections on them as well.
Oh, let's do it.
The Alice and Jenny, who we all remember as CJ Craig or Craig in Australia, from The West Wing. And also we get reunited with Bradley Whitford, who played Josh Lyman, who was the Deputy Chief of Staff in The West Wing. Different roles, though, this time, because Alison Jenny's playing the Vice President/President and Josh Lyman's playing her husband. And I reckon it took me at least 5 episodes for me to not look them as CJ Craig and Josh Lyman. I was waiting for, where's Josh's backpack? What's going on in here? But eventually kind of got used to these two characters playing different people. But the fact that they were cast opposite each other was just so weird. I don't know. I don't know how you felt about that. I just thought that was a bit nostalgic.
I loved it. Bradley Whitford's character was amazing. He was incredible. He was so sort of like warped, and I loved the relationship between him and the president, his wife, but also the dynamics between Kate and Hal, and the what do you call the first husband? So played by Bradley Whitford, and Alison Janney as well. It was those were some of the best scenes, because I'm so fascinated by that, the dynamics between the president and the vice president and their spouses, and how much time they have to spend together, and how they interact. I thought it was really good.
And the other one tonight, you mentioned Rory Kinnear, who played the UK Prime Minister, and Nicol Trowbridge as well. And folks will probably remember him from The Bank of Day, that film, which I think they made a sequel to, which I've not seen, based on a true story. And also he plays Tanner in all of the Daniel Craig editions of the Bond series as well. So he's pretty famous. And a guy that's actually got a lot of experience in acting on the West End in the UK as well. So he's a very trained actor. He, like you said, there's a bit of comic relief with his character. He's a bastard as well, though. Like, I mean, we'll talk more about some of the categories later on, but he's funny, but he's not likable, is how I feel about him.
Yeah, that's right. He's exactly sort of like a cutthroat prime minister would be, I think. But yeah, he definitely provides a lot of the comic relief throughout the whole season.
And the relationship that he has with Kate Weiler, like, he's delicate. Like, he's like a ticking time bomb that could go off at any moment. And she's kind of like, she's almost like the Trowbridge whisperer in some respects. He likes her for whatever reason. Partly he admires her, but I think partly he probably fancies her as well. So
yes,
there's that element. And so she knows that and plays into that. So it's an interesting relationship that goes on between. And that's her job. Her job is to represent the United States government to him as the Prime Minister of the UK. So good, yeah, just Rory Kinnear, more of him.
He's excellent.
Themes of the film. We touched on a little bit about it, but obviously one of them, sort of this women in power, is one of the key themes that run through this. I want to sort of get your thoughts on the strengths and weaknesses, or not even the weaknesses, but how did you think that they sort of handle that as a theme throughout the series, particularly in the third season?
Yeah, I think women in power is sort of interesting because you have Kate, but then you also have the president. So when Alison Janney becomes the president, and all the things that go along with that. I loved the discussions, in about, we could do that, but I'm a woman, so I can't do that. And what do they wear, and how's their hair, and it's actually quite rare to see that in film and TV, where the woman is the president or the ambassador. And so exploring that was definitely a highlight of the show. And I think they did it really well. Like, I think a lot of the situations in the show are completely, out of this world, like would never happen. But I think the dynamics about it, and all the considerations that, women have to make when they're in positions of power, because they are treated differently. I thought that was a great part of the season.
And there are other women in the show that have leadership roles too. Obviously, Idra Park is the character who's the CIA London station chief. So she's in charge of the spooks based in London, as well as the chief of staff to the White House for all of the two presidents that we've experienced. Billy Appiah, another woman as well. So is it the Beckford test where is there a scene where two women are talking to each other and not talking about men? I think they pass this test on a number of occasions, because we have so many moments where we find ourselves where Keri, where Kate Weiler would be talking to her CIA chief, or the president, who was a woman, or the chief of staff, and vice versa throughout. And often those conversations, whilst are subtle, are really talking about power and having to deal with the men. There are times where they're talking about the men in their lives, but they're also talking about how they're just sort of managing their own work as well.
I loved the scene when Kate gives the new president advice about how to handle the new vice president. It was like, just imagine just giving that little tidbit, like, if he does this, you got to do this. Like, I enjoyed that.
And I think someone checks her as well. Is that the scene where you're talking about, where someone checks her and saying, are you giving us advice about you as the wife, or you as the
That's right. She does. The president says that back to her. Yes.
And it was awkward. Like, it was truly awkward, right? It was.
Yeah.
And
like,
I think
where's
that's
the
kind
line?
of. Yep. And that is one of the themes of the show. The other one is obviously statecraft mixed with relationships.
Yes.
And you sort of touched on it a little bit. Obviously, Keri Russell's character has an on-again, off-again relationship, will they, won't they, with Austin Dennison, who's the UK Foreign Secretary. Good-looking bloke, sharp dresser, as well as that new character they brought in the new season, that MI5 or MI6 operative as well. It's sort of the blurring of relationships into private relationships whilst trying to play the role of diplomacy role, and also as well the relationship that she has with the Prime Minister of the UK too is also a bit interesting. There's a bit of sexual tension going on there as well, which I find fascinating. And
it makes you think. I mean, I know it's all completely, fictional, but it makes you wonder what sort of the dynamics are that we will never get to see, or we don't see behind closed doors. We only see the public-facing stuff. Like, who knows what goes on, in those grand ambassadors' houses or the White House or wherever.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the weaknesses for me, or maybe I think sort of a recommendation to someone who hasn't watched the show. You need to suspend disbelief
100%
of this being even close to what statecraft actually looks like, and just embrace the drama. And I think if you read a number of the reviews, they kind of sort of say that as well. Look, don't enter into this thinking that this is going to be an accurate portrayal of how diplomatic negotiations work at this senior level. They're not all trying to get up each other. It's not like, look, it's not as bad as Bridgerton, which is basically soft porn, but there is a lot of, will they, won't they kind of romance. I just don't think this sort of stuff would ever really happen. I mean, I hate to talk about looks, but there's no one that looks, I don't think there are any ambassadors that look like Keri Russell currently. With respect to the ambassadors of the world. Sorry. Maybe we need to cut that out. Well, no, I don't know how extensive your research is, Tess, to work out who are the hot ambassadors for the Australian diplomatic mission around the world.
I'm going to be quiet now. I'm not going to say anymore.
Any other weakness? Any other strengths or weaknesses for you?
No, for me, the strength's definitely the strong sort of like character dynamics. So especially between Kate and Hal, and the pacing. I mean, I think, do all Netflix shows have the same pacing now so that we don't look at our phones? I'm not sure. But, that's definitely strengths. This probably isn't a weakness, but, this season was a little darker than the others, wouldn't you say? And maybe it's just the seriousness of there being a nuclear weapon and the real intensification of Hal and Kate's relationship and their problems. But it was a little darker than the first two, I felt.
Yeah, there are. But there's also some light moments as well. The scene when they're at the they're at the president's private residence, right?
Yeah.
The house with the pool.
Is it in Massachusetts or it's maybe like New Jersey?
It's up in New England somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And they've got a pool, and the lengths that she goes to try and insert herself in the meeting that she can't get in because Hal is not taking her phone calls was hysterical. Completely unbelievable. Like that would just never happen.
And jumps into the pool with the first husband.
Yeah, just bonkers. And part of it, that's where I there's a border of, is it a strength, is it a weakness? Because part of it I'm going, you wouldn't do that. That is just so stupid.
You'd probably be arrested if you did that.
I think so, right? Because I think that it's maybe not a weakness of the show, but it's a weakness of her. She's a flawed character because she is talented and she's incredibly competent, but she's a bit of a mess. And often that plays out in her decision-making processes and her behaviour. And I think she can be rash, like jumping in the pool, which is unbelievable, right? That doesn't happen in reality. Like,
yes,
no one who.
No, we also have to remember that her previous appointments have been, well, she was in Iraq, before this. So it's a big, it's a big stretch, isn't it, from sort of working, at an embassy, somewhere so different where now she's all of a sudden the second lady and she's got all these things that she's meant to do and conform to.
Yeah. Any other bits that were of note to you? Normally we do music, locations or costumes. Anything that stood out for you? For me, it was just the locations were pretty great.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And I think some of them are real. And I think some of the US embassy in London are real scenes, real locations.
Yeah, 100%. They filmed. There's a whole bunch of scenes where they did film in the foyer of the US embassy in London. It seems like the scouting location person just got on the phone and asked who did the same job for The Crown and Bridgerton and other Victorian period dramas in the UK. Hey, where did you go for this and where did you go for that? Oh, definitely use this one and definitely use that one because they all looked eerily familiar and very grand. Do you think this works better as a film or a TV series?
I think a TV series, there's not enough time to explore the characters and plot in a film. I wouldn't have thought. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm the same. There's not enough time. There's not enough time to unravel these relationships and then re-ravel them back up again in a 2-hour film. And this works way better as a TV series. Would you buy the soundtrack or would you just stand in the booth at Sanity and listen to it for a while?
Music was not memorable for me at all. I can't remember a single song, so I'd be listening to it for free in Insanity.
Yeah, it's just score music. I don't think there's no kind of key sort of pop song, current or old, that they reference that you'd go, oh, killer tune, you just brought that in there. What would a Herald Sun headline report this story? I've got a couple. I don't know. Did you do any research on this one?
Yeah, I've got Love, Lies and Launch Codes, the marriage shaking global stability.
That's good.
And then man bags, in inverted commas, vice presidency, because he goes from being the handbag to the vice president. What have you got?
I got ambition over vows, inside the toxic power marriage, rocking world politics. Love last, career first, how ambition tore apart diplomacy's most dangerous marriage. And top spouse to obstacle, husband left behind as she chased the top job. Herald Sun, so sexist there at in the sub-editing department. Are there any social democrats in this show?
Well, the UK government is, in my mind, clearly Tories, right? Is it known? I'm not sure, but
no. Well, my notes here are, I feel like, you're right. I feel like the UK government is a Tory government and the US administration are Democrats, but I don't think it's ever named. It's just kind of implied, and that's based on our own biases, I'm assuming. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've just assumed that. But I mean, I don't think there are any social democrats. None present themselves too clearly to me. Where do we think Kate lies on the spectrum? Or is she such a good diplomat that you cannot tell?
Yeah, I think she's such a good diplomat you can't tell. I think maybe personally her politics are centre left, but I don't think she's...
I think we want her to be centre left maybe, but we don't know for sure. But yeah, I mean, I guess she's doing a good job then.
I feel like Billy Appiah, who's the chief of staff to the president, I feel like she actually is a lefty. Yeah, and that she would run for the Democrats eventually when she moves from being in the back office, would be my vibes. Alison Jenny, the president, Grace Penn, certainly by her actions suggests to me that they are not very socially democratic values in the and would be quite Republican actually. Actually, no, wait, sorry. We do know that Trowbridge is a Conservative because Meg Royland was a former campaign manager for the Conservative Party. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so they do say that. Yeah.
But we don't know about the Americans, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. But I could be wrong. I need to go back. I could have checked that more, but I didn't. Is there a Kevin Rudd, Julia Gillard, Bob Hawke or Paul Keating in this film?
I hate giving these comparisons. So I feel like I'm going to get in trouble. But you go.
I think Hal. There's a young Paul Keating in Hal.
Okay. Yeah.
He's 3 steps ahead of everyone else.
Yep.
A lot of the times he knows what's going on, and I feel like that's a real Keating move. There's no unifier in this film like Bob Hawke. And, I'm not touching the Kevin Rudd one. It's ironic that Kevin Rudd is now actually an ambassador.
The ambassador, yes.
Yeah. So you could actually make an argument there is sort of a reverse career thing going on there with some of the characters in some ways. But, no, I think Hal's got Keating vibes for me for sure.
Okay, good. I see that.
Mel Colston Award, most likely to rat. And I think that we need to do a reverse award here. Who is most likely not to rat in this show? Because there is a lot of rats and there's a lot of double crossing going on in amongst all of these characters.
Agree. They're all
Hal,
all ratting.
The president, the PM. I mean, the PM sensationally rats on a deal.
The PM is crazy. I think he's my favorite character besides Kate. Yes, they're all rats. I mean, the least likely to rat is Kate, right? Surely. She's probably the only one. And maybe her staffer at the embassy.
We haven't actually spoken about him, which is
no, that is a good plot line too.
Yeah. But yes, I think you're right. Kate is the least likely to rat in a very, very bad list of people who have got high rat intentions in the way they conduct themselves in state affairs. And I'd put I'd put Trowbridge as number 1. He wins the Mel Colston Award as most likely to rat, for my mind.
Yeah, agree.
Who's the weakest link in terms of being a character?
There are a lot of characters. I know we haven't gone through a lot of them, but there are a lot more. For me, the weakest character is Kate's love interest this season. The guy from the British spy. Like I don't know. I don't know if I needed that or not. The only good part was when Hal finds out.
Yes, Callum Ellis. I think Edra Park's haircut is the weakest link in all of this. The head of CIA. The mullet. It's just on a man or a woman. I've never seen it being pulled off.
I will say, okay. So I don't love the haircut, but I would have liked that plot point to be explored a little more because she gets into some serious sort of she gets herself into quite a serious situation. Well, maybe Kate gets her into a serious situation.
100%. Despite her terrible haircut, she's actually the one who I think arguably has the best political judgment, and she's not even got a political background. Her job is actually she's a spook.
Yeah.
And her advice 9 times out of 10 is on the money and is sound, and the rest of them just ignore her the whole time. Hence why they constantly end up in the shit. And then last one is ratings out of 5 national exec quotas. How much would you give it?
I'm going at 4.5. This is good. This is a solid
4.5 quotas.
Yeah.
I gave it 3.5 quotas.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
I enjoyed it, but I'm a hard marker, I think, and I'm not prepared to give away full 4 quotas.
Fair.
Geez, this episode went quick. Good pacing on our show as well, by the looks of it. Now, before we go, recommendations of TV shows that you have watched this year. They don't or films. They don't actually have to be political, but if you want to binge some stuff on your recommendation, Tess, what should our listeners check out this year over the summer?
Okay, I'm going to go a bit rogue, but my favourite show that I landed on this year were Traitors. It's actually a reality series. There are UK and US seasons, but basically all these semi-celebrities go to a castle in Scotland and 3 get nominated as traitors and the rest are faithful. And then in the castle every night, the traitors in secret murder someone and they get banished from the show. And then every night they all actually collectively vote off someone who they think might be a traitor. And the UK season, it sounds ridiculous, but the UK season had Jonathan Ross, it had Stephen Fry in it, it had Joe Marler, who's a rugby player for England. It's incredible. So just a light watch for anyone of all ages. I found that really good. The Studio on Apple with Seth Rogen, really strong, good comedy. hilarious. And Sinners was my favorite film of the year. So that's Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld in a vampire thriller, which is it's a lot smarter than just a vampire film. And I'm a wimp. I don't like horror films, but I really, really enjoyed this. So they're my recs for the year. They're my top. And Slow Horses season 5. Anyone who hasn't watched Slow Horses, always watch. Just watch it. Just turn it on. You'll love it.
Yep. Well, that's my first recommendation was Slow Horses. I loved it. I hadn't even heard of it until this year, maybe, or maybe over the summer, last summer.
Gosh.
Yeah, my brother had told me about it. He said, "Oh, Stephen, have you not seen Slow Horses?" And I think I watched the first three seasons in the space of like a day and a half. I didn't leave the couch.
Yeah, they're so good.
Loved it. Jackson Lamb. I think we may have.
That character is such a good character. He's amazing, and he recently got knighted, I think.
Did he really?
Yeah, and he went on this podcast that I really enjoy called Table Manners, which is about food. That's a really good listen. If you
Gary Oldman,
Gary Oldman.
Unbelievable. And the young Scottish guy that plays his kind of lead misfit within Slow House is rumoured to be in the shorts for being the next Bond, another blonde Bond.
Jack Loudon, yeah, cool.
Yeah, interesting. Another show which also is set in the UK. So Apple TV has Slow Horses. Department Q, which is on Netflix, which is an adaptation of a Danish thriller, is set in Scotland. It follows this guy called Carl Mork, who's a detective, and his assistant Assad as they reopen a cold case that has twists and all sorts of stuff and dealing with personal struggles. And it's set in Edinburgh and in an island up in the Northern Hebrides. And I joked with my brother saying, how is it Outlander? Is it Outlander is the film that all of the Japanese and German tourists go to Scotland to go check out the Isle of Skye?
I didn't know that.
Because of its beauty. I guarantee you the darkness and the twisted storytelling of this is meaning that no one will want to go visit this particular island because bad things happen on this island. But it's a great TV show. I loved it. And Stranger Things, I'm just looking forward to that coming out. I'm gripped. I'm just like, and if you looked at my Instagram reel, it's just feed is just Stranger Things predictions of what's going to happen in the final.
Okay, is it really that gripping?
And I'm an absolute scaredy cat. I don't like scary things, so but I can handle it. It still scares the shit out of me, but I'm, the blanket is over my head as I'm watching it, But it's just the character development's fantastic. It's my youth. It's all set in the 80s. It's what I grew up with. The music, the clothes, the toys, all that kind of stuff is just absolutely brilliant. But it's getting a little complex. I'm not a smart man when it comes to sort of, dealing with it's not sci-fi, is it? I guess it is sci-fi, but it's kind of the supernatural and stuff in the upside down world, and I'm constantly having to say, okay, wait, stop, hang on a minute, explain this to me. But even that, I'm all in now. I've bought all the shares. I can't get out of it. I can't wait for it to drop over Christmas and New Year. So it's going to be amazing. One, I'm going to tell you not to watch. It's on Netflix. It's also a political thriller. It's called House of Dynamite. Don't watch it. It's shit. And if you have watched it, I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's just terrible. And so much so, it's a film that basically repeats the plot line 4 times by the experience of the different actors. So the first, maybe it's 3. No, it's 4. I think it's 4. So the first time, the film starts the morning of this, what unravels to become a political, like a global end of days kind of scenario through the viewpoint of this particular person, and then it stops and it goes back to the start again through the same and what you see the same experience, but through the viewpoint of someone else. It does it 4 times, and we don't get resolution in any of them. And I was like, what was the point of that? It just annoyed me. I hated it. Don't watch it. But if you want to go through a painful experience 4 times, then that's your show to watch. House of Dynamite, thumbs down. No quotas. Don't even elect them to conference. Don't be a part of the political process. I'm angry that you even wrote this in the first place.
Okay, I'll steer clear from that one.
People are going to now want to watch it to see how bad it actually could have been.
Yeah, they probably will. But it's summer, they've got time, I guess.
And it just let me down. The first part gave me promise, and then it let me down 3 times after.
I was really wanting to watch it. It had such a good cast, and I love Rebecca Ferguson, who I think is one of the leads in it.
She is.
And that's a real shame, but it doesn't always land. People should watch The Diplomat instead.
100%. They are recommendations. Tess Farrell, once again, wonderful to see you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and let us indulge ourselves in some pop culture. I really appreciate it. And I hope our audience at home or at the beach or at the cricket or the tennis or whatever enjoyed this journey with us as well. And I know we've recorded this before Christmas and people will be listening to this after Christmas, but I hope you have a great Christmas and a happy new year and get some rest before we go into 2026.
Happy summer, everyone. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
No worries. Thank you. And to all of our listeners, I know I said this on our last episode with, I think it was with Harriet. Thanks, everyone, for listening this year. Really appreciate it. I didn't thank our guests that have come on the show throughout the whole year. This show doesn't work unless we have guests coming on. So I really want to shout out all of our guests and say thank you very much. And also, finally, our producer, Grace Eyre, for producing the show this year. Done a wonderful job. It's been very thoroughly enjoyable experience as the host of the show. Really appreciate her support as well. And to all of you listening, have a great break over the summer, and we'll see you back in 2026 with a new season of Socially Democratic. Hey, Social Democrats. Thanks for listening. Today's episode was hosted by myself, Stephen Donnelly, and produced by Grace Eyre. If you like the show, please rate us and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you really like the show, then join our Patreon community for early and ad-free access to each episode. We regularly take questions and comments from our Patreon members, so get in there if you want to have your say. And finally, get all the latest updates and bonus content by following Socially Democratic on our social media channels. The links are in our show notes. See you next Friday.